Hello and welcome back again to the Ben and Melanie Show. This is Ben, and I'm here with Melanie today. We've had quite a lot of news stories in the past week or two, I guess, that we've been thinking about talking about on this podcast. But I first really just wanted to thank everybody for listening, those of you who are listening. And I really wanted to thank all the support that we've gotten from everybody. It's nothing but positive, actually, which is great. Go ahead.
And we welcome lots of feedback, and we did get a little bit of feedback that our first couple podcasts did increase conversations with each other, which is what we would like to do. So thank you.
Yeah, that's really awesome. At least have the conversation, Obviously, a lot of what we're talking about is a bit controversial, and, things might not necessarily come of it that quick or anything, or at all necessarily, but it's good to at least have an open mind. At least I think.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm trying to think if there was any other housekeeping, really.
Happy holidays, whatever one you celebrate.
Yeah.
You may hear our kids in the background. It is the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
And they may be playing with noisy toys.
Indeed. It's been pretty intense.
Yeah, how are all you other parents out there doing? We're pretty tired at this point.
Yeah.
We're glad it's over. We're happy it happened. Glad it's over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, I will say this, that I actually felt like this year went great. I feel like we scaled it down this year a little bit, and I'm kind of glad we did that. I think it went really, really good as far as for presents and everything. So,
yeah, me too.
Yep. Anyway, just talking about, I'll start with a couple news things here. Really quick, I just want to talk about the Oxford shooter's parents here. James and Jennifer Crumbly. They've been in the news recently. Apparently they had a totally messed up life. And I feel like a bit that's the media just sort of sensationalized everything. I don't need to know this stuff. I mean, it's none of my business and everything. But it kind of puts it in perspective. It makes it seem to me, and as well as others, maybe they were completely narcissistic people, completely ignoring their kid who was completely apparently psychotic or whatever, and then they just bought a psychopathic gun essentially, and they just were completely apparently having affairs. I don't know, not paying their bills. That's not, again, I don't really give a shit about that stuff, but it's still just what
the son. What happened with the son that just came out? I can't remember. Something about animals.
Oh, yeah. There was an article talking about how he was, torturing animals or something, but I'm not sure if that's true. They said, apparently they know he had, a baby bird's head in a jar or something, and he took it to school with him, and then he, left it in the bathroom. I'm not sure if that means... The article, I don't remember. Again, that was a bit sensationalist thing. I think it was sort of, what?
Was it a science project?
The science? I don't think cutting baby birds' heads off is a science project.
But maybe he didn't. Maybe he found the head. Do we know he did?
But that still is weird.
I feel it is weird.
It's freaking weird, man.
It is weird. However, I don't want to assume things. I mean, unless the parent said, "Yeah, he cut its head off and kept it."
What do they have to do with? They didn't. I don't think anybody even I don't even know the relevance, actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think
I
they're trying to paint him as a psychopath, and I think that what they are in fact doing with all these other side stories about parents and lives and stuff is saying that he had upheaval at home. No one was really acknowledging the problems he had.
He apparently was a psycho or sociopath or whatever the heck that would be, whatever the term would be. He apparently was fine with killing people and stuff like that with the, no remorse or whatever, if that was the case. Indeed, I don't know. But his parents apparently had no care or knowledge about this, and then they armed him. Yeah. So why would you do that? So yeah.
I think that several systems failed in this case. I think that the system of parents system failed to notice that their son, or care if their son was having issues. I think that the child should have had some assessments and some mental health services, probably would have prevented this. That's what I assume. Would have been the best case scenario if somebody could have helped him get the help he needed. And the school too, if they would have just pulled him out of class and sent him to the counselors for the day or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if anybody just would have noticed him, and maybe that's the case with a lot of these mass shooters actually at this point. If somebody just would have actually been paying attention, apparently the teachers were paying attention, but the people that mattered in his life were not. Right. So I guess he didn't have a parent or grandparent or somebody, an aunt and uncle, to at least to acknowledge, him somehow, and acknowledge he was feeling apparently quite miserable in his life. Because he had scribbled down I can't remember what it was. He had like a picture of himself with a gun, shooting people, or a little scribble of it, and then he had like the voices won't stop or something written down. Yeah, pretty messed up.
Those were really cries for help. And the teachers, I must give huge kudos to for noticing that and trying to bring it to the administrator's attention. That is a huge cry for help. It is a cry for help. He was trying to get noticed. He was trying to get help before it happened, I think, in his mental state as it was. And no one responded.
This sort of... I'm not sure if he falls into this category at all, but this does sort of segue into what I want to talk about a little bit more. I was actually listening to another podcast with... I don't want to pronounce her name wrong. Jamila Jamay, is that right?
Jamila Jamay.
She has a podcast called I Weigh, and it's great. Anyway, she's had this guest on now twice just in the last few weeks. This guest's name is Natalie Wynn, and she has a YouTube channel called ContraPoints. And actually, it has a lot to do, I think, with why we're doing this podcast. I mean, I think I'm trying to just follow their, I guess I have hero worship when it comes to these people, but like the part of it is follow their example a little bit, because part of the ContraPoints concept, I think, is convincing people to change their mind in a way, and without fighting somebody. And empathy has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, these are bigger topics about our society at large. I do not know if Mr. Crumbly, who shot up that school, the kid, I don't know if he was an incel. I should explain what an incel is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this podcast, they're talking a lot about incels. That means involuntary celibate. And that's a big movement online, apparently, unfortunately. It mostly consists of younger men that are involuntarily celibate. There is really, apparently, on websites like Reddit and 4chan and stuff like that. Apparently, there's a large community of these guys now at this point. They are very superficial, largely. I'm familiar with this subculture a little bit because I've spent quite a lot of time on Reddit. I don't really frequent the incel, Reddit subreddits and stuff like that. I kind of stay out of that. It kind of goes hand in hand with the men's rights subreddits and stuff a bit. Not hand in hand, but it's connected anyway. If you know what I'm talking about, Mel. Mm-hmm. But
oh yes.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a whole online world that involves hating, not hating, but it involves a lot of self-loathing, I think, and a lot of hating women, obviously, too.
And frustration.
And definitely frustrated. As they were talking about in the podcast we listened to, Natalie Min's frustrated desire is part of it. But a lot of people have frustrated desire, and I think you throw testosterone on top of that, and then you get danger. That's where it's there's almost this rage. This internal rage, of young men, who just have this frustrated desire, a lot of testosterone, easy access to weapons.
It's an awkward stage of life.
Combination.
Too. Yeah. You really really in your head at those ages, like even into your 20s, a lot of times you're really in your own head.
Yes.
You can't really see out. You're so concerned with how you look and what other people perceive of you.
I'm pretty sure that the demographic data that she said was there are some older people involved in those forums, but I think that mostly it's people. It tops out around 25.
Yeah.
She was saying, and I think that it starts around this kid is 15 or something, maybe even younger, and you get these, and I think that like in the past, like they would be alone, they wouldn't have a whole community surrounding this mindset, like you said,
Yeah, it seems like they're shouting into their own room, and then it's an echo chamber, and then it's echoing back at them, which is exacerbating things. Mm-hmm. And then on Reddit and 4chan, sometimes these people will say that they're going to do something violent, and the rest of the group would be like, yeah, man, do it. And it just like pushes, it's that little push that pushes them over the edge. And, maybe in previous decades, men were frustrated, but there wasn't the internet where it was a large group of people confirming what you think all the time. And also in older time periods, though that age group would have been being groomed to go into the military or groomed to do other things or have more of a place.
Yeah. I mean, in the 19th century, in the 20th century, the first half of the 20th century, and up into the Vietnam War, I mean, obviously that age group would have been drafted. And they would have been just sent off to war as soldiers, largely. Yeah. That's where they would have drawn the soldiers from, that age group and that, demographic, right? They could use that rage. But, and
it's kind of a microcosm of what's happened in our country. Because, like, social media and others' websites, you're surrounded by, the algorithm makes you hear only the people that you agree with.
But I think it amplifies each other's voices.
Yes.
And anyway, in that subculture, they have like they're super superficial people. They're sometimes not the brightest people. I'm really thinking
they've categorized women into different types.
There's that, but I think they also think that women only want to sleep with men. They think women are superficial and only want to sleep with men for certain reasons, and then they make themselves superficial. Anyway, there's a lot of projection going on there, I feel, anyway.
And I think it's a personal issue for some of them, and then I think that they're nitpicking society, movies, media, and picking out this and that, and then saying that's indicative of the entire group of women. Mm-hmm. That all women only care about looks.
Yep.
All women only care about money.
Money or looks, yep, that's it.
And then about men. And then they're like, well, I need to have surgery or something to change myself so I can even get a girlfriend.
Yeah, there's a lot of plastic surgery that happens in there. Right. Like, yeah. They're like really, and there's a lot of, it's all just about using women because women are just here to use you. And it's all just, super negative. That's what they call the red pill. Comes from that, comes from the Matrix, obviously, but they use this thing, the red pill. Take the red pill, you'll see reality that women only care about, wrist size or chin size or ridiculous things,
or whether or not you have abs or not.
No, that's not ridiculous. I get some stuff I understand.
It's to the
but they were
extreme.
talking about they're talking about hilarious things sometimes, like wrist size. Though, like I'm just like. What? Like that?
What does
like,
that
who
have
cares
to do
about
with
that?
the size of your wrist?
Sorry.
Whether or not you can wear a big watch.
I learned a lot. Anyway, this is all from Natalie Wynn. She has an amazing YouTube channel again, ContraPoints.
Yeah.
This is where I'm learning this. This is all, I mean, I was very aware of this world, but I mean, I never delved that deep into it myself.
She delved into it and has been monitoring that group online for some time and studying, trying to figure out what is making them tick. Yeah. What are their worries about things? She's very good at breaking things down and kind of simplifying it. And okay, this is where it's at for these people. How do we, as a society, change this? Yeah.
How do we change that? Right? We can't just ignore them. That is true. Like they might be. It's funny and we laugh and haha and everything like that. It's easy for me to laugh at them and everybody to laugh at them, but which I do, we can't pretend. And this kid, I don't know whether he was part of this subculture or not. I think there's been other mass shooters that have been, and when he went in and shut up that school, that affected everybody at that school. All the people he killed, all their families. That was a massive amount of people, and that affected. So you can't just ignore that this crazy sort of subculture exists. We need to address it and we need to address it a little bit. We have to not make fun of it, and maybe we need to make fun of it. I know, I don't know, but we shouldn't. I guess what I'm saying is, like, if we can address it, in an empathetic fashion, that's the key. Try to be understanding about how they got there, maybe, and that maybe they should understand that maybe if we could find a way to make them understand their situation probably is only temporary. I remember feeling misunderstood and angry when I was 15, but I definitely didn't have a community online, poking me with memes and stuff constantly, telling me to go shoot up the school, that is something, and it's probably good, that I didn't, and it's good that, no one should have that. And I think most people feel quite misunderstood at that age, anyway, yeah.
I want to bring up something that she did mention in the podcast about the larger society on this, because we as women have started to be more college educated, have higher paying jobs than a lot of younger groups. I'm not talking about baby boomers here. I'm talking about the younger groups. They're starting to be, the women are more educated. They can make more money. There are no fraternal organizations really for that age group, besides the Boy Scouts, maybe. But I mean, like, that have a way of conveying a sense of normalcy, a sense of community in a positive way, and in having society like you matter and are needed by society because of these reasons. Like, I'm Native, and we've had a lot of trouble with this too, because when we were colonized, we had puberty rights and stuff for both men and women, and there were groups that trained men in different kinds of activities that were very much needed by the whole village, by the whole tribe. Sustenance, hunting, there were warrior societies, there were spiritual groups for these kids, and roles that they could play in that to bring them in. And I think we as a society have went away from that so much that a lot of men don't feel needed. They're starting to have problems like anorexia, trying to be accepted by what they think women want. They need a place again besides the military. They need a place in roles.
So this is an issue that, I think that's what they're trying to send the podcast a little bit. It's a little bit of a reason. It's always been there, but like this is maybe there's a lack of spiritual guidance or something like that. Not that I think that's, I don't know, the most important thing ever but it depends on the person. But I mean, maybe in the past, religion would actually fill that void.
Religion would, but also
saying,
making a place in the community where those boys feel needed, like they are learning a skill that the people need. You know what I'm saying? Like a directly.
Some
like
sort
hunting
of
is bringing food home for the village.
They make them feel valued.
Yeah, value
instead of a drain.
And it isn't about what they look like, but who they are. We need to change that for them.
But I mean, I guess you could say men in the 50s kind of have it great because they didn't care about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they cared, but I mean, men have always cared about what they look like a bit. But I mean, saying they didn't have to care is how I guess men grew up in the 20th century largely. Kind of being okay, I should say white privileged men again, all that whole thing, but if you're just a man, you didn't have to care about having a beer gut or whatever. I guess you'd be I'm gonna get a girl no matter what, right? And that, maybe in the last decade or so, mass media, advertising, everything has shifted that. So now there's more pressure on young men to conform to beauty standards for men, whatever that may be. And I'm not really sure, but there's a body type for men now that, be this is what they were saying. Yeah, they were saying this in the podcast. That's right. Be like a superhero body, or whatever. And that's impossible for most humans. Most humans are not Thor. And that's,
And I've heard women laugh at this because we have been subjected to beauty standards for a long time with magazines and media telling us how we have to dress, what we have to wear. I mean, in the 50s, you weren't supposed to ever let your husband see you without makeup. So you were supposed to set your alarm at 3 in the morning and go in there, get those curlers out, get your face made up before your husband ever seen it. Or the secretary would take your husband.
What was the name of that show? There's a really good show where they showed that on Amazon. About the female comedian. I can't think of the name of the show. Anyway, the first episode, you remember that? Like, she was doing that anyway.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember the name of the show, though.
But anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, and women laugh at that. But the problem is we as a society need to realize that hurts people. And I think that advertisers need to realize they need to stop it. And we need to change. We need to stand up and say, no, this is not okay. We need to treat each other equally. We need to bring a place for our men.
But you're not going to have an end to advertising. I mean, it's a capitalist society,
Change the message.
Well, I guess. I want to be able to, I think that's an idealistic situation, but we can't. I don't know how that advertising is going to go away. I think we need to use, I think, again, like they were saying in that podcast, testosterone, quote unquote, is a hell of a drug. You throw depression, you throw what are traditionally women's beauty standards, depression type issues, self-loathing and depression onto young men. You throw a bunch of testosterone onto that, basically, and you throw some guns.
It's throwing it at a powder keg.
It's a powder keg. Yeah, you're gonna get some schools get shut up, man. Like, that seems to be. I wonder if they're really on to something with that. That seems to be all connected to me, anyway. Marvelous Miss Maisel. That's the name of the show. It was. Yep, Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I love that show.
Yeah, that in the very first episode, I think it showed her doing that, like getting all around, putting all the makeup on, and everything like that, and then
measuring her thighs,
laying down back in bed.
Yep.
And pretending to wake up. Well, her husband got up, and she had her makeup on, like he never saw her before the divorce and everything. Anyway, spoilers if you haven't watched the first episode. Sorry. Marvelous Miss Maisel from 2018 or something.
We as the people in this country need to realize we have more power than we think. Like, if we all decide that we don't like this, then it becomes a social norm. And then it becomes normal to treat each other equally or make a place for each other. I
think the key is we all need to watch out for those younger men in our lives. They need to be really...
They need to know they're valued.
Well, we need to be, not just that, I'm just saying, like, really spend time with them.
Yes.
I guess, is be with them.
Don't let them live on a video game or an online community.
Don't just let them, like, live on their own like these parents did. They just sort of just, like... It
They're
sounds
not okay.
like they just let him raise himself. I mean, for a lot, like, they just were superficial, really self-obsessed, narcissistic people. Again, I'm not judging their financial status or whatever. That's harsh, because I mean, the news was making all this big deal. They're like, oh, they're so apparently poor for not paying their bills. But I mean, that goes hand in hand with being lazy in our society. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other value system. But I'm just saying, like, they just need to give him attention.
Yeah. And
spend time with him and make him. You're right. Make him feel valued.
If somebody would have stepped aside and said, "Hey,
yeah.
I am kind of getting that you're having a hard time here. How can I help you?"
Yes. Yeah. And
how can we do something? Let's do something with you. Let's get you involved in something positive.
Sports.
Or he maybe
something.
Not just sports.
Trombone.
There's community organizations. He could have met girls that way. You never know. Learn the thing. This is the key to relationships. Let me just say, it does not matter what you look like. It matters how good of a heart you have and whether you have confidence or not.
Well, I mean, looks matter to an extent.
For any incels out there, have the confidence, you will attract someone.
I know.
Be
confidence,
kind.
Really, yeah, actually, to be fair, looks, I think looks are part of it. But I mean, I don't think that they're
There's a person for every other person.
I agree with you there. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I don't think that you should just say, like, looks don't matter at all.
You want to be clean. Saying, like, let's be honest.
No, I don't think that. I don't think. I think that's disingenuous to say looks don't matter, but competence matters a shit ton.
Confidence matters more than humor, you think.
There's so many things.
Even if you don't feel confident, pretend you are, and you will get a girl.
But yeah, anyway, and so, but I think there's just as many young women out there.
Same thing.
That feel the same way.
Yep.
And they have just as many problems. They're just not all testosteroned up and ready to rage.
Everyone needs
yeah.
to be willing and feel comfortable taking up their own space and feeling good in their own skin.
Yeah.
If you can feel good in your own skin, you can attract friends. You can have a better time of it in general. If you can feel comfortable in yourself, no matter who that self is, and then other people will be attracted to you to want to learn who you are. Well, you're interesting. You're different. You have confidence. I need that.
Yeah.
I want to learn from you. You never know.
Maybe we need to expand the Big Brothers, the Big Brother, Big Sister program or something. Is that what it's called?
Yes,
Where but just to have a male or female role model.
That helps. But I think that something happens. For me, I think that there needs to be some kind of transitionary thing for puberty time. Because I think that this has a big deal with it. Because when you're all hormoned up at that time period, everything seems bigger than it is. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we had some kind of ceremony or transition that solidified that I'm a grown-up now for younger group, besides driving, something positive, a role they can play, how they can participate in community, feel valued. That's the big deal there. Because, these kids that don't feel valued, you're talking about the incels, that had something to do with 9/11 too. When they talked about it in the podcast.
They talked about the podcast.
About they think they need 12 virgins or
that's
something.
70 virgins.
Yeah, 70 virgins.
Yeah, it's like, anyway, they were talking about that, how there has been elements of that throughout society for all time. Mm-hmm. It's not just new. Terrorists, maybe they latch onto a political ideology, but hormones still might have something to play there.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So there's an insecurity on top, and then they're getting offered. So that's an example of, I guess, where spiritualism has gone wrong.
Right.
Spiritualism can be used in a horrible way, mm-hmm. right?
And I'm not even saying
but yeah.
I disagree that it has to be spiritualism. I think it just needs to be, your community needs to need you. We need to need them. We need to figure out a way to make them feel needed, wanted, and valued. Mm. We need to give them a role to play.
I think you're right. I think maybe we just don't have those cultural traditions. Obviously a lot of people do have those cultural traditions, mm-hmm. but I'm saying the overarching American society just doesn't really have a spot mm-hmm. for 14 to 15-year-old boys or something, or girls.
And girls.
Yeah, you're right. It's just they're just sort of a weird outside type of place that they don't feel included in anything, and you're right.
Because the example is, so with my people, you have a ceremony for a whole year when you turn in to be a woman. During that time, you have to prove that you know how to take care of a family. So you have to be able to butcher an animal. You have to know how to cook. You have to know how a little bit of the medicines to take care of people. You have to know how to make containers, baskets and stuff, how to make a lodge. There's a lot of different responsibilities. So it's not about rights, it's about responsibilities again. Your role and responsibility to the people, and that's what's lacking in our country right now. With the young people and with big people for that matter. The cohesiveness is loosened. We need to feel that again.
I think they had I think that's almost impossible. I mean, not impossible. I mean, really difficult on a nation state level on this size. They had the Boy Scouts of America and Girl Scouts and all that. I think in the past to sort of cover that time period in somebody's life. I don't know if that worked. Apparently there's a lot of Boy Scout masters that were abusers. And I'm not sure if, so I'm not sure if institutionally we need to be doing this. I'm thinking of more familial.
In communities.
Smaller groups, not as a nation state.
As a nation state, we literally could do something. We could do something like AmeriCorps for 14 to 15-year-olds to help feel to bond the cohesiveness, have them help in their own community, not somewhere else, not ship them anywhere, but have them feel needed and valued in their own community.
I don't know if I agree with that. The more institutional you make it like that, I think the less it'll work. It has to have a personal thing. It has to be personal relationships. We were talking about earlier with empathy and all that. I can't, a big institution, I don't just drafting somebody into public service, I don't know is going to solve that problem.
Well, I agree with you, but I think at the state we're in right now, we got to start somewhere, firstly. And secondly, I think the problem is that the parents are all at work. So they're not noticing.
I don't think they are at this point. Well, they have been up until now. Mm-hmm. I know, up until everything that's happened.
And there's a lot of single parents out there that can't be home to notice things.
Well, so we need to build these two parents down in Oxford there that apparently they could have been around and they weren't out of choice, apparently.
I know, but I mean, if we had more things in place, like, I don't know, family leave.
I know, yeah.
We need to have I believe in a minimum income for everyone.
A big start to that.
If something happens with your family like this isn't a 2-week fix.
No.
That child would have needed years of intensive mental health services and family support there for him, not being able to go and help him because you had to go to work at 5 in the morning isn't helpful. And we all as a society have been reliant so heavily on our teachers and education system to do everything for us. That's a problem. And the reason why we're doing that is because of work. Because of the work constraints everybody's under.
I mean, for the last 20 to 30 years, that has been the case. Well, really since our lifetimes, like 30 or 40 years, 40, 50 years.
We pay lip service to families first, okay? Yeah. It's lip service. We really need to fix that.
Well, I think you're right. The one key to that, you're right, is is offering paid family leave. That's a huge one. You're right. Then immediately everybody will get 4 weeks off, however many weeks they decide to give them,
And it needs to be paid.
4 weeks off a year or something, just paid family leave. And you can get, they should make it relatively easy, and it will make people's life super better, I think, anyway. They can actually work on their familial bonding and relationships that way.
And they should change the rules on that, to be honest, because if you have 4 kids, one of the kids is having a medical issue like, say, leukemia, childhood leukemia, you need the 4 weeks off paid, and then your other child is having mental health issues, you can't take it in the same year.
Currently, technically, you get 12 weeks unpaid, right? But that's
But who could do
unpaid.
That? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We need pay. I know. Because how are you going to
I don't think they're
going
to do... I just don't see it being politically feasible to do 12 weeks paid off.
But it is politically feasible to do minimum basic income, which could kind of...
That is very politically feasible. They should have done it. I feel like it already was, and they just haven't done it. So I don't really know exactly what they're planning to do there, but that I think would just live to... Most people would just apparently use money that they're getting just for food.
Yeah, so and then it would inject money into the economy, and we could be like the other first world countries, finally.
Yeah, we definitely have some puritanical Puritan work ethic stuff here. I think that most people here actually want to work, though. That's a myth about the poor. I think most people want to be productive. I think they want to be productive members of society.
Because being told you're lazy is akin to saying you're a murderer in our country. Especially in the Midwest. Man, if you aren't doing something all the time and you aren't busy, you're like the worst human ever.
Yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe that's a specifically
needs to change
Midwestern attitude more than anywhere else. But yeah.
Work to live, not the other way around.
Yeah, yep. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back in a moment. And we are back. That's where the commercial would have been if we did commercials in this podcast, which we do not. So, if you think we should ever, feel free to let us know. We can start. But right now we are commercial free. Maybe in the future there will be a commercial there. You never know. Or at least, as far as we know, we're commercial free. I guess I can't. We're using Anchor, and I'm not sure. They might be putting something in.
Yeah, I have no idea.
They might be putting some sort of advertising in, I guess. I have no idea. But we're not actually having any part of it or getting compensated for any of it if there is anything like that at all. So I was going to say, welcome back for the news from Lake Wobegon. That's basically what it feels like. I was reading the Greenville Daily News here. And again, there was apparently a massive fight at another township meeting, a Pine Township meeting to discuss pending wind energy ordinance ends with police presence. This was from December 22nd. And it says Monday, this, the Daily News is kind of good about editorializing here. But suffice it to say, there was a big fight again about wind power in a township meeting. And I really just wanted to say we don't need it. We need to have these debates. That's fine. But we don't, like the cops were apparently called. Like, good God, people. Let's just like try to keep it under control, okay? We could do that. I think... I was talking to my dad about it, actually. We were talking about this because, he's definitely interested in local politics a lot. But I kind of think that might be like a cultural thing, like with Midwesterners, we keep so quiet and so reserved that maybe that's like to our detriment in these situations, where maybe the cops did not actually need to be called, but maybe whoever is in charge of these township meetings needs to not be so reserved. They need to shut this shit down. Like, shut it down before it even starts. And be like, if somebody goes all crazy, I don't care which side it's on, Like, obviously, in this case, it's probably the anti-wind people that apparently are interrupting and jeering. But if they're jeering and stuff like that, shut the meeting down. Shut it down.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just be, and I just feel like, I don't know, we were talking about, I feel like, I just feel like that's a Sheridan thing, that's a Macomb County thing, that's a Michigan way a little bit, I don't think of people from, like, New Jersey or, like, Brooklyn or something, I don't think of them just, like, kind of passively getting jeered at, like, I'm sure they have fights and stuff, but I mean, people say, shut the fuck up and get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, the township administrators and the township supervisors in many other places are much more outgoing.
Yes.
And much more just taking control of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and, like, it's very frustrating to see. I think that's part of our Midwestern thing. We think we're supposed to be quiet. Like, we just, then finally we can't take it anymore because we're getting trolled too much, and then we just explode. Like, that's it. It's over. We're calling the police. But maybe there's an in-between. I'm just speculating. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I have a suggestion to all of you township supervisors out there dealing with stuff like this, and school boards for that matter, because I know there's arguments going on in the county about that too. So here's how to handle this. You could set up a website where they could make comments that way, or during the meeting, right at the beginning of the meeting, say, this is going to be a public silent meeting. And what you're going to do if you have a comment is write it down. We have plenty of pencils and papers available. And then at the end of the meeting, we will grab all of your comments. We'll thumb through them for a few minutes, and then we'll try to address your concerns. Maybe that would stop the disruptions, the incivility.
Maybe. I don't know. They have to maintain democracy, obviously, but they have to let people get to say things, really, or say things, sort of. I mean, I don't think they can just... but I agree with you. Maybe they need to, like, change it so you can't have as much public comment, limit the public comment period. Also, I still think just be willing to just tell people that to cut them off. Be like, no, you can't talk anymore. This is done. We're shutting down the meeting. If you're going to go off, and it's like the real life trolling the township supervisor, the township people, officials. Like, they're trolling them like it's Facebook or something, and it's not.
And they build off each other. So what I'm saying is, if they did a silent public comment where they got to write their stuff down and they read it during the meeting and they addressed their concerns, then they couldn't feed off each other and get so angry.
Yeah.
But it would still be democratic, and they'd still be able to say what they wanted to say.
Yeah, maybe. I totally agree. Like a website somehow.
Website, or like a live feed of their comments, like you do in Facebook Live, or they could do like a, paper and pencil way. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say about this particular thing is there's a lot of people going to these township meetings saying that they speak for everybody, all of the insiders from this area. I would just like to say that I am an insider from this area, and my family goes back generations. Matter of fact, you are living on our land. And I would just like to say that you don't speak for me.
You're living on our land as far as from the native perspective.
Yes, you are living on indigenous land. And I will tell you, I don't agree with you speaking for me. And there are certain individuals at these meetings coming up saying that they speak for us and they are newcomers, quote unquote, in the last few years. And Ben and my families have been here before it was a state.
There was yeah, that's true. That my family's been here quite a while, too, and a lot of people's families, obviously, you can't get to a pissing contest about who's been here longest. I mean, no one will win that, obviously, at the end. I mean, except the Indians, right?
I win this argument, by the way.
Yeah. But,
but the point is we shouldn't try to speak for each other.
But it's a free country. You can move to where you want to move and say what you want to say. But I don't appreciate somebody. That's true. Like there was apparently the Daily News posted this a couple days ago on their Facebook page. There was a BuzzFeed article, which is like a national publication that was actually specifically talking about the wind debate in Sydney Township, which is insane. And it was talking about it was centered on a couple who moved here from like Grand Rapids, like in 2016, which for my mind, and I think, yeah, Melanie's mind here, right? That's pretty recent. And they have a lot to say, and they started the whole anti-wind thing, I guess, or whatever, and that's a big thing. And it's a free country. They want to come up here to raise horses and that's, have 40 acres and just live off the land. But they don't see it the same way we see it. Like, I see this area as, like, post-industrial at this point. Like, I see all the places where there used to be factories, where there used to be massive amounts of trains, logging, heavy industry for hundreds of years, and then it left, and they just see it as like the Wild West, I feel. Yep. And they just see like this is the out Wild West, and they can just do what they want up here in free God's country or something like that. And I totally get that if you're coming from like an urban area, but like I have a totally different perspective because I see more of the history here, and I'm aware of this history, and with all the industry that happened here, and all the logging, and all the heavy things,
and the poverty, and you know what?
And the poverty, yes.
We do want things that will help our counties get more money. I mean, we do want better education systems for our children. We do want roads fixed. We do want job opportunities for our kids here.
Well, that's the definition of progressive. I mean, I think I'm a progressive. And the fact that I want to see positive change. I want to see this area grow, I don't want to see it get urban, of course. I don't want to see it get too much big, but I want to see it grow economically. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing some tourists here. I wouldn't mind seeing some of that. I wouldn't mind seeing some wind jobs here. I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of things here.
I wouldn't mind having, roads, fiber internet and great cell phone coverage.
Yep, exactly. Some sort of public transit system, which there is none, again, that I'm aware of at all outside of Greenville in this entire area. Like if you go to Isabella County, they have it. Mecosta County has it. Ionia County has it. Various ones, but
in this county, if you get a DUI and get your license taken away, you will see people driving their lawnmowers to the store.
We know that.
FYI, because there's no public transportation, and wouldn't it be nice to get on a bus and have a warm place to sit? Just saying.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So you get the lawnmower class, and they're stuck without cars, and so maybe we should actually have a better system there. And actually, that's not fair. It's not. It's punishing people for being poor. I feel like it's actually they're trying in a way to prevent poor people from moving here or something by not having some sort of public. But it doesn't address the fact that probably like half the residents of this county are like under the poverty line anyway.
Right.
And like that, I just feel like there's a complete lack of recognition of the issues that exist anyway. I could go on all day about this. I'll shut up. I just, I just wanted to say, like, let's not fight at our township meetings anymore, please. It's funny, the more I seem to say this, the more it seems to happen, so we'll see.
Yeah. Treat people civilly.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. The more you shout, the more people stop listening to you.
And
the more you yell, the more it invalidates your point.
Yeah. Is there any other news from like Wobegon?
What else did I
Or is that we were going to talk about a couple other things here, I think, but I think that was it for that.
Yeah, I think that was it for that.
I was really, really sad since we'd done the last podcast. Anne Rice died. I was a huge fan of Anne Rice. I read all of her vampire novels. Big fan going back to when I was probably 15 years old or so. So, yeah, when I was in my angsty Period. Anne Rice is a perfect angsty type writer for that age, and yeah, but I love her books. They're great. It's like historical fiction, which is wonderful. And you can have vampire. It's yeah. Anyway,
I love the movie too.
Yep, historical fiction with supernatural characters that get to sort of observe history actually much of the time, and sometimes take part in it, sometimes not. And it's pretty awesome.
And I would like to say that I wasn't a huge super fan. However, I did read a few of her books, and what I did like about her writing was her ability to immerse you in it. Because when she writes something about a historical place or time, you literally could smell the air. You could feel the feeling of that time period.
Yeah.
She was very good at that, and her creation of her characters was amazing. They were very human and not two-dimensional. It was very amazing. She was a very amazing writer. So it's sad that she left us.
I'm really sad that she never got to see her. Apparently, there's a plan to make a TV series. There is a plan still, as far as I know, to make a TV series based on those vampire novels on an AMC, I think, or something. I'm really sad that she didn't get to see it come to fruition. I think she really wanted to see like a good version of her stuff made. I really love the Interview with the Vampire movie, actually, from the early 90s with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. I think it was a great movie. But then they made another one, I think, in the early 2000s, Queen of the Damned, which definitely was more subpar, to say the least. And it definitely deviated pretty far from the source material, which was weird. I don't know what's going on there. But hopefully they'll bring it back in some form or another, like Dune, and do an amazing job. Yeah, we never know what we'll get here. Maybe Tom Cruise reprises his role as the vampire. Let's that. You never know. That would be amazing. What else were we going to go over here really quick?
And finally, I wanted to talk about education. So I've been sort of harping on this during the different episodes about the difference between rights and responsibilities. And I think that our education system has contributed to the idea of rights over responsibilities. And I remember having a conversation with Ben's grandpa, who grew up, he has passed away now, but when he grew up and went to school in a one-room schoolhouse. And in the schoolhouse, they had multiple grades, and the older students helped the younger students. And I told him once, I said, we should go back to that. And he says, I don't know if that would work or not now. And I'm like, maybe not, but the idea of building that responsibility for each other is key, and I think healing our country at this time. And I think that it is possible. I've been thinking about this more since then, and looking at the stress our teachers are under, and the way that we teach now is so test focused. And I think that it would help, everything, even these shooting incidences. If you were in a schoolhouse, I think we could do it in communities, like every little small community, or in urban areas, maybe every, couple blocks have a school for those blocks in a multi-level situation, because then you wouldn't have large bands of teenagers bullying each other. You would have teenagers being more responsible for the younger kids, and they're on down to the littlest ones, to help each other. And I think that might have been what that generation seemed to have that we don't, that we moved away from, is that responsibility to each other and the ability to learn to help each other. So maybe at some point, somebody can institute something like this. I do see a lot of news, at least in different communities, indigenous communities and others, where they're starting their own schools. I've heard of people doing homeschool more. I've heard of people doing outschool, or on the school on the land, where the kids are learning science and whatnot from out in the wilderness, and other things that they do at those schools. So I think that across communities, there's a recognition that something isn't right here, and we need to maybe change it, to bring back those values of taking care of each other, an independence, be able to critically think about things, and an ability to have room to be creative and not so much on that clock all the time. What do you think, Ben?
I think it's easier said than done. I don't mind the idea of it at all, but like just going back to like one room schoolhouses seems like it would be, well, for one thing, incredibly expensive. They'd have to like build them everywhere, or would they? Sure, are we talking about like doing this maybe like in a virtual setting and having different ages in a virtual classroom, like an online setting?
You could do that.
Like using the new technology with the metaverse stuff, which is put on some goggles or whatever and connect it, and then you're seeing like avatars of everybody. Like avatar of the teacher, avatar of different aged students. So is that?
That is not what I was thinking, but that's very forward thinking of you. I'd have to think about that for a minute.
Well, I'm just not sure. I just don't know if the money's there to build a whole bunch of new schools.
You don't need to build any more schools. Almost every community in every block or two has a school. What you need to do is shuffle it. So instead of having, like our school here has 1st through 3rd grade, all those classrooms, make it multi-level classroom. Every single one of the classrooms that already exist.
So like just destroy the whole system in a way. Destroy the system of keeping all the grades separate.
Yep.
And mix up like 6th grade and under or something.
No, I'm saying 12th grade.
12th grade.
12th grade down to kindergarten.
I think that would make people uncomfortable.
It may make them uncomfortable at the beginning, but it would remove some of the problems that we're having with the preteen to teenager groups where there's too much emphasis on the bullying each other over what they're wearing or whatever. And it would build in more having a responsibility to your younger classmates and helping. And it also will push forward the younger ones. Think about this. When you have one child, it kind of takes them forever, really, to learn to use a cup, to learn to walk, to learn the potty training. But once you bring a new child in after the first one, the second child is like, it's like they're on roller skates because it's super fast. Like they're learning stuff from their older siblings all the time, and they're like catching on way faster because they have that role model going on.
Yeah.
We could have that role modeling going on in the schools.
No, actually, to give something like the older kids something productive to be doing too, in a way.
And to be valued and needed.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying there.
Building of community.
Mixing up those grade levels would be flying in the face of everything for the last 50 to I don't know how many years. But, obviously in the 30s and 40s, though, they were doing stuff differently still. So, the system that we have, I think, was it invented? I don't even know anything about the history of education. If anybody knows about that, definitely, I learned it
I don't
know who the inventor of the current grade system is, the current separating whole groups of kids in separate levels, in large schools. I feel like
that is...
That seems like it's something from the 50s.
It's also been a downfall for industry. Because what has happened is more finite, more separated we've become in education, the less creative we've been, which is what the rest of the world was trying to learn how to do from us. Instead, we changed it and we're like, oh no, we've got to be more stringent on tests and we've got to do this and that. And that doesn't really help anything.
I think it would be relatively simple to do this in rural areas like this. Mm-hmm. I think in inner city schools, though, man,
yes, hard. You think it's bad, I think it's a capability that we have.
Too densely populated to try. I think that's why they,
But we're not moving any. We're not building any new schools. What we're doing is shuffling the pupils. So we're going to make a multi-level class in each classroom, and then that's the classroom you stay in.
Have people been trying this with I don't know, there's different co-op schools and different experimental things happening now.
I think...
I wonder if people are trying this at all.
I don't know if they've been trying this particular idea. Not even in the religious schools, to be honest. I think that they're still separated by grade.
I think Amish schools are like this, aren't they?
Amish are a different community.
Yeah, but they are. They're religious.
They still do the multi-level classrooms,
that's what I'm saying.
But look how creative they are. They build things, they make things, they figure things out.
They have... Yeah, they get to go on Rumspringa. And they get to
and a lot of them
crazy.
go back.
That's
why?
Right.
The main reason, we watched a thing on that. It's
They're
about
very
community.
productive members of society. Correct.
Yes.
They have a very strong community ties. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
We need to bring that back, and I think if we brought that back, we would stop having so much division in this country.
They would say that that's because of religion, probably.
Right, but you don't have to have that. In public school, you could still do the same thing in a multi-level, multi-ethnic, and change the way that we're doing things.
Maybe.
We know something needs to change. We have all these shootings all the time.
We do need to change it.
And we need more mental health services.
I don't know. I really, really think that's true, though. I mean, as far as, like, we need to change the system. I think this relates back to what you were saying earlier, kids. We have to do something different in our society for, like, young teenagers.
Yes.
For starters. And maybe this can be something that is done for them. Giving them something productive to do.
And.
Without just drafting them into something. Like this. Anyway.
And it would give the younger children role models.
Yeah.
Because I believe, and I've seen this with my own eyes, older students, even the ones that have trouble, when they're put in a position to have to help younger children, they change the way that they behave. A little tiny bit.
I think they do too. I think you're right. Yeah.
Even the ones that are troubled, because they don't.
They go a little bit into, there is some, I don't want to say it's a parental instinct, but it's a caretaking role a little bit.
Yep.
Not all of them as much as others. Some are more than others, right? But I know what you're saying.
But their behavior isn't so bad, and that's one of the huge problems right now for educators is behavior issues, suicide.
That's actually a really good idea.
And everything else.
You should write up a plan.
You've heard it here first.
Yeah, write up. Start your own multi-age. I don't even know what to call it. Multi-age school. Yeah, one-room school. Just kind of go back to the old Anne of Green Gables style. Anne of Green Gables style of schools. Actually, it does make it sound pretty nice. That does sound better.
And it also costs more money. That's the big thing.
This sort of dangerous group. I hate to be pinning it all on young men. Dangerous young men might be getting more attention, you know what I mean? Or they'll maybe better mixed in with different ages.
Yep.
So a young man who's 15 might actually find himself better off as a caretaker type role, or a mentor type person to a younger kid. And then also they'll have other people of different ages with them in the same setting. Instead of just having all 15-year-olds competing with each other, and
you're building confidence. You're building respect.
Yeah,
you're building all sorts of skills that aren't actually.
In a way, you could say it's really negative. It's bad to put a bunch of kids the same age in a situation like that.
Because it's like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah,
they run around in packs.
It is Lord of the Flies at that age. It is brutal.
It's bad.
Yep. Survival, the
and if they're putting
most popular, at that age, and it's just
I mean, we have TV shows on cable apparently right now of like 16 and counting. How it is when they have a big family, the older ones help the younger ones, and there's a role play. There's a tweaking in the roles where it speeds up the little ones, and it also gives value and.
Yeah, I don't watch that, so I don't know what that is.
I don't really watch it, but I do see articles about it sometimes. So, anyways, I think it's a good idea. Let us know what you think. Give me some feedback on that. What do you think?
Send it to the email address. What's the email address again? benandmelanieshow@gmail.com, right? Mm-hmm. That's, it's not... Yeah, just benandmelanieshow@gmail.com.
Yes.
And, or just get on that old Facebook page there and... Yeah.
Drop us a comment.
Drop us a comment on there. Let's see. Do we have anything else to go over today? Or is that pretty much... I don't know. I didn't have anything else to talk about, I guess.
I think that we're coming to the end. Maybe next time we can talk about student loans. That could be a whole big section.
That's a whole episode on itself.
And the Build Back Better plan.
I want to talk about that too. Yep. The student loans. Actually, they're kicking the can down the road again. Student loans are not... No one has to pay student loans until May now. And just a little while to go. They're all going to be due in January. Anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in to the Ben and Melanie Show podcast yet again. Really appreciate all of you for your support and for listening.
And even though we have kid noise in the background,
Yep,
but hey,
yep.
this is real life and we're real parents.
All right.
Till next time.
Bama P, motherfucker.